Introducing merch of the month from Southern Maryland House of Nerf/shop. Check out our spooky and cold weather merch, which helps us support their local Maryland clubs. They have shirts, hoodies, beanies, blaster charms, and patches. Check out what merch we have available at southernmarylandhouseofnerf.com/shop. This review is looking a little dark. Allow me to shed some light on the subject. Nice. Greetings, audience. I'm Boomstick, and we're going to do something a little bit different today because I got a package. As you see here, I got a package from Dart Tech. Got one of their Founder Series. I'll show you what's inside. They were kind enough to send this out to me for a review, and I've actually been able to take this to a couple games and be able to give you guys a review. So let's open up and talk about it. Now, when I said we're going to be doing something different today, that's because this is not a 3D printed blaster. This is an injection molded flywheel blaster called the Neoblast. The Neoblast is an injection molded flywheel that takes full length mags and uses a rev trigger. The Neoblast also comes with this neat little sight, which it'll hold in place pretty well, but it also moves around if you push it gently, so keep that in mind. But I do actually like the sight because it uses these two pieces of plastic where you can actually line up your sights with, so I found that to be rather fascinating. It does also have a jam door on the side here, which kind of friction in place, but there's nothing really to hold it open, so it is kind of just floppy, which I'll talk about later. But yeah, so it is nice that it has that. It has a mag release on both sides. And, of course, the big selling point of the Neoblast is the lights. Now, aside from these, the package also came with 2 additional mags, so you do end up with 2 12s and 1 8-round mag. It also comes with this cute little belt holster to hold your extra mags. And another really fascinating thing is a brand new dart type. Now, obviously, this is another standard waffle-style dart. I'll go later into the video to talk about the specifics as far as weight and size and whatnot. But yeah, another dart type, which is interesting. Which is kind of to be expected from a new company. Obviously, you're not going to use other companies' darts. They're going to want to use their own darts so they can sell you their darts. But we'll talk about that later. The Neoblast does also have several different attachment points. I didn't get any attachments with this blaster, but I have seen a couple of others online that utilize foregrips and bipods and whatnot, so definitely check those out because that is a pretty unique attachment point system where it looks like they kind of just friction into place and hold there and you just yank them out essentially. So yeah. Now, I've seen a couple of people posting that Dart Tech blasters have been popping up at their stores. I haven't seen any around me yet, but I have found them on Amazon, and you can get it from Amazon for $40. Now, that brings us to kind of like the first big thing is this is essentially a Strife with extra bits. But Strifes aren't as easy to get anymore, so really this is the main competitor to the Spectrum. Now, the Spectrum can also be gotten for around $40 depending on what sale is going on, so it is interesting. Now, I will say, personally, haven't used a Spectrum. I've never picked one up. I kind of just never felt the need to. I do want to eventually grab one for myself because I have a kit from Foamdemic that I need to throw on a Spectrum. So hopefully soon I'll get a Spectrum. But for now, I will say I haven't used a Spectrum, so I can only go off of my experience using a Strife and using the Neoblast. But from what I've heard from others, it is a very good semi-auto blaster. So based on the fact that they're about the same price, it's really going to come down to which blaster you like the aesthetic of more, which one has more modability and stuff like that. So keep that in mind with this one, that this is a $40 blaster, whereas when the Strife came out it was only around $20. However, because that's not available, I won't really be drawing a main comparison to that just because they're not really available. Except for, I believe, the Modulus Strife, which is on Amazon, I believe, for about $33. So technically speaking, you can still get a Strife if you like the Modulus blaster for about $30. So if I'm going to compare it, I'll compare it to that one. Hi guys, Boomstick here in the editing room with an important correction. When looking up Spectrum prices, I was looking at Amazon and not Walmart. The Walmart Spectrum is currently around $25, which is a really good price for what it is. The $40 Amazon Spectrum does include 4 mags and 50 darts, which I'll also correct myself on later in this review. First, let's talk about the appearance. First thing I will say, I love the fact that the batteries are in this stock tray up here, so it doesn't affect the appearance of the blaster, which I like, because that's one thing I never did like about the Strife, is the fact that the battery tray made it very asymmetrical. Same with the flywheel cage, and again, as you'll notice, this is a symmetrical blaster, which I really enjoy, because that's been one of my biggest complaints with the Strife, is that I don't think the Strife actually looks that good because of that asymmetrical style. I personally think that this looks better than the Spectrum. However, there's one thing that the Strife and the Spectrum have over the Neoblast, and that is stock attachments. You see this little stubby thing? There's no stock here. So, yeah, like if I wanted to use this as a stock, I would have to really have it based up on my body, which this is incredibly uncomfortable. Like, even for a child, I can't imagine that'd be that comfortable. It's a super short stock. The grip, however, I will say is fairly comfortable. It's nice and beefy. I'd prefer if it was a little bit more rounded, but overall, no real complaints. There's enough room for my hand. No real complaints there. I find it very comfortable. Just put my hand up on the front. I can reach the mag release with my finger, and it does gravity drop mags out of it. Now, speaking of mags, this I'm sure is going to be something important to all of you watching the video, is does it take Nerf style mags? I surprisingly actually have a full-length mag, which surprised me. It will take Nerf style mags. It's a little bit of a wobble, and if it wobbles to the front, it doesn't work. So it technically takes Nerf mags, but there is a little switch on the inside here that needs to be pressed in order for it to rev. And I've found that Nerf mags don't press that switch very well. So if you want to run it with Nerf style mags, you kind of have to hold the mag and lean the mag back a little so you can make sure that it is pressing that switch. Now, for the modded community, obviously that's not a reason to not get it, because that's a very easy thing to just bypass. I literally, because I want to keep this in its stock configuration, I just threw a piece of E-tape over it just to hold the switch down, just until I could get the review out. After this review, I'm going to try and see if I can open it up, mod it, see what I can do. So I will say that is a con, that you can't really use Nerf mags well without modding it, so keep that in mind. I will say I was actually a little disappointed because I wanted to run the glow mags for HVZ, which I did do, and you'll see footage of it later, but I had lots of issues, not just because of the switch not actuating, but the little space right here runs into this little slope down here. So if you want to run these, you'd have to actually grind away at that if you want to run glow mags, which is what I wanted, because I want to be able to have glowing mags to go with my glowing blaster to shoot glowing darts. That sounded like a lot of fun, and I was actually really disappointed that it gave me that much trouble trying to make it work. Now, one thing with other products aside from Nerf is a lot of things that people like to complain about is plastic creaking. I would say there's a little bit, but like the plastic seems fairly sturdy to me, and I didn't have an issue of it feeling cheap at all in the hands. It felt like a very decently built blaster, in my opinion. Now, one thing I will say is if you look down the magwell, that pusher is not straight. There's definitely plastic inside that is flexing and causing the pusher to go at an angle. Now, this has never led to me having a jam or anything, because I believe once there's a mag in it, it actually goes between the feed lips, so there's no issue there. But it is something to be aware of, that the plastic on the inside does seem to do a little bit of flexing. Another issue I had with the trigger was the fact that if I didn't let it go all the way back, or if I just tried to rapid fire, which happened a lot while trying to do the intro to this video, I had issues where it wouldn't go far enough back to push the next dart in. So you do have to make sure you let the trigger go all the way back, because I do feel like it pushes the darts probably more than it has to. So they could have shaved a little bit off the pusher just so, like, if it wasn't like literally all the way back, which when you're rapid firing, you tend not to let it go all the way back into that position. So maybe also, if you're going to mod it, shave a little bit off of that pusher just so it's not causing you to run into jams of that nature, which I did experience. Obviously, I wanted to make sure it worked with our kind of standard community dart, which is the Adventure Force waffle dart, which it does fire fine. So no issue there. You can still use your standard community dart. Obviously, it'll still work with Nerf darts as well. So currently, I'd say it's a bit of a mixed bag, but let's take it out into the field and put it through its paces, shall we? Now, when I put the Neoblast over my chronograph with fresh batteries, I was getting an average of 65 FPS with the included darts, as well as the Adventure Force waffle darts. While slightly weaker than the average Nerf flywheel blaster, I didn't notice a big difference on the field, but that is an important distinction, especially when compared to the Spectrum, which is cheaper and hits harder. The Neoblast did incredibly well during the stock rounds at the DMV Nerfers. I got pretty good at arcing darts to get longer distant tags, and the blaster was very comfortable to run for several rounds.
I know, I'm almost there. Oh, there it is.
At HVZ, I had lots of fun running around with the glowing blaster. However, the glow mags gave me lots of issues due to the blaster shell bumping against the glow mag battery tray. It was a big disappointment for me in that regard. However, running it with standard mags would have worked well, and I think the Neoblast makes for a decent stock blaster to be used in HVZ, especially during those night missions where the glow is really, really cool. Now that we've had a chance to run it through the field and at games, let's go into my overall thoughts. First thing I will say, this clip right here, useless, get rid of it. I would much rather just put the mags in my pockets. Obviously full-grown adults, so they actually fit in my pocket, but I do not recommend that clip. It held well enough during the game, but like that thing is going to wear out and break in no time, so do not recommend that. Now obviously I did have a mag fail at me at a game. They both seem to be fine now, so I'm not sure if it was just a spring binding up, but that's not an issue I've ever had with Nerf mags. I'm sure it has happened to somebody, but the fact that a mag did fail on me midday, also something to keep in mind. Now, I will say, lots and lots of fun. I actually had a ton of fun running this for the stock rounds, and I even had fun using this for HVZ, even though it didn't work with my glow mags, which I'm still disappointed about that. But yes, I do think it's a fun blaster. I'm a big fan of the lights, the glowing. It's fun. It's essentially a standard flywheeler. If you like the aesthetics of this blaster, if you like the lights, I absolutely think it's worth it. I'm very interested in seeing what the community does with these blasters, seeing people make cages possibly for them. I don't know what the geometry is on the inside to see what we can do, but I'm very interested in seeing what the community does with them. Now, I will say there's already a ton of products for the Strife, so take that into regard, as well as the Spectrum. There's things out there for the Spectrum now. Currently, as far as I know, there's nothing out there for the Neoblast, so if you are going to mod this, there's really no kits or anything out here for this. But aside from the stock, I would say that this is a perfectly good looking blaster. And I do think that this could do well with a really good paint job. I might try and see if I can hit up Al the Geek and see if he wants to take a stab at painting out one of these. I would be very interested in seeing what he could do with them. But overall, this is a stock blaster, and the reviews I do are usually obviously of heavily modified stuff, or mostly 3D printed stuff, really. So keep that in mind when I'm giving it its score here, because I'm actually going to put it right here. And I think that's fair. Like, I do think that the price is a little high, but if you think about it, the Spectrum, which is around the same price, doesn't have the lights. It doesn't come with 3 different mags and a mag belt clip, even if I don't think it's really worth that. And I do think it is worth that price when you take into consideration the Spectrum. So, time for another correction from Boomstick in the editing room. When looking purely at price and performance, there's really no reason to buy the Neoblast over the Spectrum, except for those LEDs and, in my opinion, a better looking blaster. So I really only recommend buying the Neoblast if you really like the shell, which I do. However, it's hard to say it's worth it when the Spectrum is cheaper and performs better. So unfortunately, I do have to say it's not worth the price unless you really like the shell. The main drawback for me is just this stock is awful. I wish they had given us a stock point to work with. That would have been nice, because yeah, this is a completely useless stock. So yeah, as I've said probably multiple times in this review, it's fun. If you like the look of it, if you like the lights, pick one up. They're appearing in stores. They're on Amazon. I'll have that link down below. And again, thank you to Dartech for sending this to me for review. I had a lot of fun running it. So yeah, I think that's all there is to say about it. I think the next step is really just going to be seeing what we can do with it mod-wise. Thank you all for watching, and a special thank you to all my lovely patrons, especially Nerf Nothing for being an amazing pro patron. If you'd like to support the channel or any of the other lovely hobbyists mentioned in this video, please check out the links in the description below. Don't forget, all rival status or higher patrons get monthly stickers from yours truly. But if you don't want to support the channel in that way, definitely check out my merch store for patches, blaster charms, shirts, and more. Don't forget to leave me a comment letting me know your thoughts on the video, and as always, like and subscribe for more foam flinging content. I've been Boomstick, and I'm out.